All right, guys, so we got number 3 wrapped up. And as a quick intro, I'm going to be talking about wisdom. And I'm going to be reading a couple chapters out of the Bible that I've been reading this last week. So I thought it was pretty funny. I looked up this little video talking about wisdom and maybe need to caveat it. I don't know if this would be a pop culture known thing or not. We're talking about wisdom. We're not talking about like whiz-dumb, like whizzing. We're talking about wisdom. I thought this was pretty funny. Let's check it out.
Oh, wow. Whoa. That is simply unreal.
The Lake of Wisdom.
What are you guys waiting for? Guys, hurry up! This is what Mama talked about!
Wow.
Be honest. Do I sound any wiser?
Oh, way wiser. You were kind of dumb before. I can say that now.
That water is no joke. I can literally taste the intelligence and wisdom circulating through my body now.
Nobody's here. I mean, nobody's used this place in years.
What are you doing? Get out of there. Don't spit in his mouth. No, don't spit it back.
Don't swallow it.
Whoa. Get out. Let's go. Come on. Shh, shh. Take your time, will you?
Red, I found the meaning of life. It's
Shut your wormhole.
America.
Oh, wow. It's him.
Oh, man. Ugh. Horrible turn of events. Horrible. Ooh.
Well, not so much the Lake of Wisdom, it's more like the Lake of Whiz.
Did you just come here to look at me? Or did you have something to say?
I think he saw us. Oh, you think so?
Oh man. So now that I've grossed out half the audience, at least all the ladies, that's wisdom. Enjoy the show. What's up, friends? So we're gonna start the show a little bit different today. I'm gonna sing. Oh, I gotta turn my music. There we go. I'm gonna sing you guys a song. So last show, episode 2, I played a few songs, like 30 seconds worth, and YouTube told me that I played too much, and they'll still keep the video up and all that, but they just didn't like that I played so much. So I'm kind of gonna improvise a little bit. I'm gonna sing you guys a song. This is one of my favorites. I'm gonna remix it though. Remix the song. That's cool. Hopefully. Let's see. I'm gonna play it from my iPad. Worship His holy name. All right, Holy Spirit, let's go. Let's go. For before, oh my soul. worship your holy name. I'm trying not to play it too loud. I don't want YouTube to get angry at me again. All right, let's remix this thing. Zup, it's the Generation Giants new podcast. It's time to sing a new song at the beginning of this podcast for the first time ever made. Pass, know that the Lord is with you and listen to the Generation Giants podcast. Let me be singing and you can join me too. Okay, let's go. Chorus. Bless the Lord and Generation Giants podcast. Oh, Generation Giants podcast. Worship your holy name. That's Jesus right there. Sing like never before. Oh, Generation Giants podcast. Lord bless this podcast. Holy name. I wrote more verses, but I'm gonna stop it right there. That was about 1 minute and 30 seconds of the song, actually. So I don't know how loud that'll be in the video because I didn't play it through the computer. But be blessed. Be blessed. I don't sing just for anybody, just for you guys, all 12 of you listeners. So welcome. Be blessed. This is episode 3 of Generation Giants podcast. My name is Kyle, and I'm excited. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Whether you're listening with some friends, listening on the iPad, iPod Touch, iNano, I Like Music, Pod, or whatever, or a TV. I want to thank you guys for investing your time into listening to this, and I hope that you tune in. I'm excited about today's message that I want to give. It's definitely pretty faith-based, which is a huge part of this podcast, which I'll probably make clear every episode. I'm still kind of feeling my way on this journey of podcast, you know. This is only number 3. Just feels like yesterday I just started this thing, because pretty much I did. I think it was about a week ago. So, but it's been fun. It's been good. It's definitely, so I love talking to students. I serve at Seacoast Church at one of the larger services for rising 10th graders. So I got that right that time. They're rising 10th grade as of like a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And as far as I know, they passed 9th grade. And it's a lot of fun to hang out with the students, you students. So hopefully some of you will listen to this podcast. And I enjoy it. And for sure I enjoy it. It keeps me young, right? But definitely with this podcast, I'm just talking to a screen, you know. So it's definitely challenging. I was actually thinking today that I'll probably figure out a way at some point to pull up Skype or something like that on my computer while I'm recording, and maybe somehow do some like live conversation or something like that. That was just an idea I came up with. I'm sure some of you could even add on to that and suggest it and run with it. I do have an email that I encourage you guys to reach out to me. It's generationgiants@gmail.com. That's generationgiants@gmail.com. I had to think for a second if I added the podcast at the end of that. That'd be a long name, though. generationgiantspodcast@gmail.com. At some point, I'll more than likely get a domain so that it's like something like info@generationgiants.com or whatever I end up making the domain name. But for now, no domain, just hosting this podcast on Libsyn, posted to iTunes, and going to soon be on Stitcher, I think is the name of kind of the Android interface equivalent, and we're on YouTube. And I made a Twitter. So I'm not even on Twitter, personally. Don't intend to be on Twitter. It's just not my thing. If it's your thing, that's cool. But it's not my thing. So I made a Twitter the other day, trying to figure that out too. So if you are on Twitter, I don't think it's called follow it. I don't know if I have to approve it. Hopefully not, because I don't intend to stalk my own Twitter very often. So trying to get this social media. Maybe I need to hire somebody. once I get some money to hire somebody, maybe they can do the social media. Or if any of you young people want to step up and do the social media thing, maybe I'll figure that out. So I'm excited. Thank you guys. Hopefully you're having a pretty good week. If you're listening live, it's summertime. I'm probably going to be saying that almost all summer because it's just exciting down here in Charleston. I know not everyone's going to be from South Carolina or live in South Carolina, but a lot of people like to vacation down here. And whatever you've heard, whether it's, the number one destination spot in the universe 2 or 3 times in a row, whatever you've heard, I know it gets hyped up a lot, winning awards and all that. Well, everything you heard is correct. It's pretty amazing down here. So we've got great beaches, and I really didn't even like the beach until I was probably 18, probably 18. It just didn't appeal to me. And then I found volleyball at the beach, and I started really liking the beach. So the beach is also a great, a lot of people like the beach too, just because it's a great reminder of how vast and how amazing the world is, it's kind of neat, the concept of just endless waves, endless energy just crashing into the coast and all the creatures roaming. A friend of mine showed me a shark app the other week, how they're tracking sharks, which got me kind of intimidated because they get pretty close to shore. And then I got really worried because the app showed that they were coming onto shore. Like, it was like a line going around the ocean, and then it would just go a few miles inland. And that got me really, really worried. I know there was a movie about that, so maybe that was a precursor to reality. So I got to be, you guys got to watch out. There might be some sharks straight up driving in cars on the road. You'll just be at a stoplight. There'll be a shark driving a vehicle down the road, and if you can just picture, he'll have sunglasses on more than likely, and he'll just look to you and just smile with all of his 8,000 teeth. So watch out for sharks, even if you're not in the water. It's crazy. So I'm excited. This has been a good week. Really busy week getting this podcast off the ground, and a lot of learning. I did not learn how to podcast in school, nor ever for that matter. I'm learning as I go, which is fun though. It's just my personality. I like kind of learning as I go. It's a myth. This is pretty key. Kind of tune into this. It's a myth that you spend part of your life learning and part of your life producing. Think about that. It's a myth that you spend 12, 16 years or whatever learning, and then you just produce. That's a myth. Some people do that. I think there's some statistic that 1% of Americans read a book a year, adult Americans over 18, and that may be true. So a lot of people do have that philosophy. They spend 16 years learning until they're 22 or whatever, and then they produce. Those people aren't that successful. They can be successful to some extent, but that's a myth. You spend all of your life learning. You never stop experiencing new things, which to me is exciting. Some people that might be intimidating, but that's part of life, and it's fun. Don't be afraid of failure, no matter what you're doing. If you're afraid of failure, you'll never achieve great things, or more than likely, you'll never achieve great things. The things that I believe God has put before you. So don't be afraid to get out there. Keep learning, keep experiencing. So I'm excited. I just got done with a bike ride. I only did 20 miles today, not too far. Trying to get the PT on, physical training, and physical therapy for that matter. I've had a slight injury for a little while, trying to heal that up, stretch that out. So kind of funny story. In high school, I was always getting injured. I did physical therapy 4 or 5 times, not sessions, but different times, different seasons. And luckily I had sports insurance through my high school, so it costed my parents some money, but we had sports insurance, so not so much money. It was kind of funny. I got the reputation for being the school's greatest stretcher kind of thing. I don't think it was actually a reputation I had throughout the school, but I literally would stretch, like stretch the hammies, stretch the calves especially. You don't think that they're going to get tight until they do. And, quads. Yeah, just between classes. I don't know about you guys. I had like 10 minutes between classes in high school. And, that 10 minutes, that adds up because you have like 4 hour-and-a-half classes. That's like 40 minutes of stretching a day times 5 days a week, which is like 14 hours or something. I mean, that's some pretty good stretching. So, and I was a punter and a kicker on the football team, so that super helped out not to tear a hammy when I was punting. Because I don't know if y'all have seen professional punters. Maybe I can even post like a clip in the little margin over here right now. And yeah, they basically kick their faces off whenever they punt. So I would always stretch, but I'm just super tight. That was just something, that was like maintenance that I had to do, right? Some of you guys, you probably have to do something like that, some kind of maintenance, all the really great athletes, it's their little habits, I think. I haven't necessarily studied or even know like world-class athletes, but my impression that I think is it's those little things that you don't think about, waking up early and stretching and preparing to actually work out and prepare. And then they do the actual workout and prepare, and stretching and eating correctly. I mean, when I was in college and I got into triathlon, I kind of had this philosophy. Triathlon was like a lifestyle. It's not just a sport, because you had to eat right. Whenever you weren't training, you were preparing for your next training, So everything was kind of oriented toward becoming a better athlete and becoming more healthy, more fit, because that's really what the sport's about. It's about being healthy, and about being resilient. So since it's not just one activity, like running, it's 3. And then I knew somebody did decathlons, and that's like 10 events. So it's fun stuff. So today I want to talk about today's podcast is titled, what did I title it? I have a few notes. Wisdom has no age. Wisdom has no age. Right? So for sure, like I said, throughout your entire life, you are learning. Hopefully. Hopefully you're learning. There's actually a great saying, there's success and there's experience. And I love that, Sometimes you succeed, sometimes you don't, but at least you gained experience to apply to the next time you try to do something. Maybe you try the exact same thing. Maybe you tweak it. Maybe you try something totally, totally different. So, but there's success and there's experience. And so wisdom has no age. So let's talk about that a little bit. And then I want to read some scripture that really struck me in sort of my daily reading this week. And even last week, because I think it was a couple days ago that I read this particular passage. And so, for sure, generally speaking, age is some determinant of wisdom. For sure. I mean, someone who is a senior citizen, for instance, probably, generally speaking, maybe wiser than someone who just got out of college. I mean, generally speaking. Does that mean the person who just got out of college does not possess wisdom? Think about that. Or just because the person who just got out of college may be wiser than the person who just graduated from high school, does that mean the person who graduated from high school does not possess wisdom? I think the answer is no, right? No matter how old you are, you more than likely possess some degree of wisdom. Because I think morality and right and wrong, that sort of thing, understanding objective truths, right? I think we're all trying to find truth. We all have this desire to find truth. And most of us have a pretty good sense of what is true and what is not. Now, sometimes we get caught up in the expressions of truth and non-truth rather than sort of the overarching idea of truth and lies or non-truths. But just because someone older than you has more wisdom than you, does that mean that you don't have wisdom? The answer is no. If you are just graduating from high school, you're in high school, you possess some degree of wisdom, right? Certainly so I want you to think about the wisest person you know that's kind of your age, for instance. They may, and think about maybe what makes them, why do they come to mind? One reason might be their actions demonstrate their inward wisdom. So I am not necessarily going to get too into it in this podcast, but for instance, the Greeks and Aristotle and philosophers of those days talked a lot about virtue, which is a big idea. I'm not going to get into it this podcast, and how some virtue is inward and knowledge based. You can just know it and you're wise. And some wisdom and virtue, some virtue is expressed outwardly. For instance, courage. Someone who is courageous, you can't just learn courage. Like, just because you possess the idea of courage doesn't make you a courageous person. You have to demonstrate it. And there's some virtues like that are very much action-based. So wisdom is, I think, can be action-based. But I think a lot of it is inward-based. The how. How do you think? How do you arrive at your conclusions of life? How do you think about yourself? That's a big question. Knowing yourself. You're always, if nothing else, even if you're not learning from things outside of yourself as you grow and get older, even if you don't learn a whole lot on the outside, like science, for instance. Once you learn gravity, what else is there to learn in science, right? You should always be learning about yourself, because every experience, you have several options on how you're going to handle challenges, and the ways that you handle them teach you about yourself. So you're always learning about yourself, and that's key. That is very key, learning about yourself. So one way to be wise is understanding yourself and being okay with yourself. That is huge, guys. No matter how old you are, a lot of people, teens and adults, just struggle with who they are. They don't want to accept who they are. They want to be somebody else. That is huge. That's actually going to lead me into my next point. But a lot of people don't want to accept who they are. They want to change their name, change their gender. They want to just be something different. And if that's you, if we were meeting face to face, we'd have a much more intimate conversation. I would like nothing more than to meet you and understand you. Unfortunately, I can't understand you because I'm speaking into a screen and you're listening through some headphones. But if we were face to face, I'd get to ask questions and understand you. But you have to get to a point where you're okay with who you are. One of the greatest crimes could be that you live your whole life wishing you were something else. Now, that doesn't mean you don't keep trying to grow, but you're trying to grow who you are. You're trying to grow toward something, toward your potential, toward what you could be, toward your vision for yourself. You're trying to grow toward that, toward who you were created to be by God. As I've said, this podcast is very faith-based. I'm a believer in Jesus, and I want this podcast to bring glory to God. If that's not where you are, that's okay. I'm okay with that. I still wish I could meet you and understand you, understand where you've been and where you want to go. But you have to ask, why are you not okay with yourself? And how long are you not going to be okay with yourself? It's something, do you really put your faith in, if I was just this, I'd be okay with myself? Or if I could just have this, I'd be okay with myself? Are you really putting that much faith in that thing, whatever it is? Now, it's okay to want things, for sure. Everyone wants things. Money can buy a lot of things. That's why a lot of people want to buy money, or want money. You can't buy money, can you? Maybe you can buy you can buy gold. That's kind of like buying money. Money can buy a lot of things, but it can't buy fulfillment. can't buy happiness. Two key things it can buy, and I don't want to talk about money a whole lot, but I'll say this. Two things it can buy, to some extent, is security, right? If you have a bank account with a lot of money, if someone broke into your house and stole everything, it'd be okay for the most part. You'd have security. If you didn't have that money, you didn't have insurance, there'd be some issues to work through. So money, to an extent, can buy security, and everyone wants to feel secure. Outwardly and inwardly. I don't know if money can buy inward security, but it can buy external security. Money can also buy impact, to an extent, depending on what kind of person you are. If you're a person that wants to make impact, money can buy impact. Big impact. Some of you listening, you will make oodles of money. Just oodles. I'll stick to that word. You're going to make oodles of money one day. I don't know what you're going to do. I believe this generation coming up is for sure going to be the most tech-savvy generation there is. I can't necessarily say it's going to be the smartest or wisest or most athletic or any of that. But I do believe it's going to be one of the most tech-savvy generations. And I believe it's going to make the greatest impact of any generation before it. You know, the possibilities are endless. You're only limited by your imagination on what you can do in this life. And some of you, you're going to make oodles of money, and right now and in the coming years, you're going to be thinking about, what could I do to make an impact while I'm here? Some of you, maybe you're not even there yet. Maybe this is like a new concept to you, and that's okay. But some of you, you've got dreams already in your hearts, and some of you, you'll be thinking about them after listening to this. You've got dreams in your heart, and if you have the willpower, you will be able to make them happen. I don't know how. Right now, you probably don't know how. Even if you think you know how, you don't actually know how. Let me just tell you. You can think you know how. I'll talk about this on another podcast, but planning is much different from having a plan. Planning is very key. Planning means everything. Having a plan means nothing. Because if you're stuck on sticking to that plan, you're probably going to fail. But as long as you went through that process of planning, that is what's important. So, accept who you are. You're okay. You're okay. Don't worry. It's going to be okay. You know? So, before getting into the main topic I want to talk about, again, wisdom has no age. I want to introduce the difference between accepting and tolerating. So those are two very different words. And again, this is just how I think about them. Accepting and tolerating. Right? They both have two very different connotations, don't they? Like if someone says you're a very accepting person, usually that's a pretty good compliment. Like, yeah, I want to be accepting. Like, I'm a pretty accepting person, open arms. But if someone says you're a very tolerating person, or why are you tolerating that? Very different, right? Now, sometimes tolerating, that word could have a positive connotation. But generally, tolerating is negative. So this is the way that I see the difference in those two words. Accepting is surrendering control, but acknowledging that there may be work to do. Accepting is surrendering control, but acknowledging that there may be work to do. So let's say there is a medical issue in your life. Whatever. Could be anything. If you say, I accept this present situation, you're saying, I don't have full authority to get rid of this thing. You know, that's a huge part of faith in Christianity. You know, that we believe generally as Christians that God is in control. We just get to be players. And certainly there's free will. And I can't make a huge case or debate for, autonomy. And some Christians believe in predestination and that sort of thing. I'm not going to talk about that. You can research all that if you're interested. But accepting, I think, is surrendering control, but acknowledging there may be work to do. Okay, I accept that, I failed this test or whatever. Could be literally a test at school, could be some other test. Could be anything. You practice taking tests in school so you can be more prepared for tests in life, I think. Okay, I accept this. I accept you are my friend, but you really hurt me, with what you said or what you did. But I accept that you're human. You got pretty heated in the moment, and our history as friends far outweighs that one moment where you lost your temper. I can't control what you do, but I can control how I react. I accept it. Tolerating is way different. At the Citadel, military college where I went, our honor code was a cadet does not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. The tolerating part was the toughest part. Anyone can control their actions. You can't control others' actions. You can control if you don't lie, cheat, or steal. But there can always be some bad apples in any mix. And tolerating it, choosing to either look away or choosing to take it on. To take it on almost like, what's that spray, that medical spray that you put on cuts and it stings like crazy? I can't remember. Hydrogen peroxide. Just think about hydrogen peroxide. Would you rather just let the cut be and maybe it heals, or spray hydrogen peroxide on it and it burns like crazy, but it heals up better? Tolerating to me is ignoring a problem that should be fixed. And those are two key terms that I want to bring up again in this last half hour or less that I want to talk about. But those are two big key phrases, I think, that will... All right, screen went black. All right, I'm still recording. Those are two key phrases that I want to bring up again in this podcast, but also are huge keys, I think, as a little chunk of wisdom. Add to your wisdom tank. Because they almost sound the same from a definition standpoint, but they're very, very different. And tolerance, okay, so, if you have a high degree of tolerance, that can sound positive. So I don't want to say that any word is necessarily negative or evil or anything like that. Certainly depends on the context of how you use it. But think about those two words and how they could apply in your life. So in my reading this week, I was reading Job. I don't know if you guys know the book of Job. It's actually spelled Job. Why? I have no idea. I don't know how that's a long O. It's literally, the book is spelled J-O-B. Literally, I don't know who translated the Bible. I don't know if they forgot an E. But it's pronounced Job as far as I know, unless every pastor has been messing with me. Since I've been going to church. So I've been reading Job. And Job's an interesting book. My understanding, it's maybe the oldest book in the Bible. It's in the Old Testament. And in a nutshell, this isn't going to be a full detailed talk about Job, but kind of setting the context. I want to read one or two of the chapters here. So Job basically is this kind of old guy. He's wealthy. He's basically got everything that one could ask for. He's got vineyards and farms and a wife and children that I think are grown up. And he's got more cattle. That was like a big thing. Like, God, I'm so wealthy. I got 12 cows. And then he's like, bro, I got 18 donkeys and 4,000 cows. Come at me. So this is Job. He probably didn't talk like that because I don't know. I get the impression. I don't know how old he was. He was old. That's what it said. Maybe it says somewhere in there how old he is. But people in that day, the Bible tends to say that they lived a very long time. So that's kind of Job. He has everything. And in the book, there's God and Satan having a conversation together. Talking about Job's one of the greatest in the land. He's great. And Satan's like, if I took everything away from him, he would denounce your name. I bet you, God, I bet you that I could get him to denounce your name. And God's like, no, you couldn't do that. No way. And so anyway, God lets Satan run amok in Job's life, and Job ends up, everything just just burned. Everything goes away. His whole everything gets ruined. Everything in his life that he had goes away, and he's back down on it. He has nothing now, and so he begins to denounce God, saying, "How could you let this happen to me? I'm perfect. I've never done anything wrong." And so basically he goes on like that for a while in the book. He's just defending himself that he doesn't deserve this, which kind of rightly so, to a degree. And I can't get into that, and so he has a couple friends come over, and one of the friends happens to be young, that we find out, and so his friends keep try to talk him into his senses of helping him feel better and this and that, and they're not talking any sense to Job. Job's still saying, you don't understand my pain, and I've been right with God my whole life. And so I thought it was really interesting. I mean, I've read Job before, but I was reading this week, and I just want to read a little bit. I want to read a little bit, maybe almost 2 chapters, but it'll go by really quick. And I want to read this because it struck me. So again, the title of this podcast, Wisdom Has No Age. All right. So I'll just get into it. This is Job. You can even tune in, pause it or whatever. You can look up the Bible on your phone or whatever. Actually, I like the analog. I don't know if you can. I like the analog. Analog means hard copy or whatever. So I'm just going to read along. I'm going to start with Job 32. Let's get into it. So it says, "So these 3 men stopped answering Job because he was righteous in his own eyes." So that's the 3 older dudes. "But Elihu," who's the young guy, "son of Barachel the Buzite of the family of Ram, became very angry with Job for justifying himself rather than God. He was also angry with the 3 friends because they had found no way to refute Job, and yet had condemned him. Now Elihu had waited before speaking to Job because they were older than he." That's fair enough. "And when he saw that the 3 men had nothing more to say, his anger was aroused. So Elihu, son of Barachel the Buzite, said, 'I am young in years and you are old. That is why I was fearful, not daring to tell you what I know. I thought age should speak, advanced years should teach wisdom. But it is the spirit in a person, the breath of the Almighty, that gives them understanding. It is not only the old who are wise, not only the aged who understand what is right. Therefore I say, listen to me. I too will tell you what I know. I waited while you spoke. I listened to your reasoning while you were searching for words. I gave you my full attention. But not one of you has proved Job wrong. None of you has answered his arguments. Do not say, we have found wisdom. Let God, not a man, refute him. But Job has not marshaled his words against me, and I will not answer him with your arguments. They are dismayed and have no more to say. Words have failed them. Must I wait now that they are silent? Now that they stand there with no reply?" So he's talking about the old guys. "I too will have my say. I too will tell what I know. For I am full of words, and the spirit within me compels me. Inside I am like bottled up wine, like new wineskins ready to burst. I must speak and find relief. I must open my lips and reply. I will show no partiality, nor will I flatter anyone. For if I were skilled in flattery, my Maker would soon take me away." And now this is chapter 33. "But now, Job, listen to my words. Pay attention to everything I say. I'm about to open my mouth. My words are on the tip of my tongue. My words come from an upright heart. My lips sincerely speak what I know. The Spirit of God has made me. The breath of the Almighty gives me life." Oh, that's huge. "Answer me then if you can. Stand up and argue your case before me. I am the same as you in God's sight. I too am a piece of clay. No fear of me should alarm you, nor should my hand be heavy on you." It's kind of lightning before he gets into it. "But you have said in my hearing, I heard the very words, I am pure, I have done no wrong. I am clean and free of sin." So he's quoting Job right there. "Yet God has found fault with me. He considers me his enemy. He fastens my feet in shackles. He keeps close watch on all my paths. But I tell you, in this you are not right, for God is greater than any mortal. Why do you complain to him that he responds to no one's words? For God does speak, now one way, now another. So that's huge. Maybe I'll get into that in a minute. Though no one perceives it. In a dream and a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls on people as they slumber in their beds, he may speak in their ears and terrify them with warnings to turn them from wrongdoing and keep them from pride, to preserve them from the pit, their lives from perishing by the sword. Or someone may be chastened on a bed of pain with constant distress in their bones, so that their body finds food repulsive and their soul loathes the choicest meal. Their flesh wastes away to nothing, and their bones, once hidden, now stick out. They draw near to the pit, and their life to the messengers of death. Yet if there is an angel at their side, a messenger, 1 out of 1,000, sent to tell them how to be upright, and he is gracious to that person and says to God, spare them from going down to the pit. I have found a ransom for them. Let their flesh be renewed like a child's. Let them be restored as in the days of their youth. Pretty sure he's talking about Jesus right there. Anyway, Jesus hadn't quite lived on the earth yet. Then that person can pray to God and find favor with him. They will see God's face and shout for joy. He will restore them to full well-being, and they will go to others and say, I have sinned. I have perverted what is right, but I did not get what I deserved. God has delivered me from going down to the pit, and I shall live to enjoy the light of life. God does all these things to a person twice, even three times, to turn them back from the pit, that the light of life may shine on them. Pay attention, Job, listen to me. Be silent, and I will speak. If you have anything to say, answer me. Speak up, for I want to vindicate you. But if not, then listen to me. Be silent, and I will teach you wisdom. I picture he just drops the mic, like this young buck, telling this kind of old guy who's lived through so much life. So that's the end of chapter 33. That's all I'm going to read. You can read on afterward if you want. I'll keep it open though. I mean, and he keeps kind of going, but that part was to me the most impactful. And he ends it. He tells this guy, be silent and I will teach you wisdom. Now, let me be clear. I'm not going to tell you to tell your parents, be silent and I will teach you wisdom. Oh, man. Yeah, I'd be getting emails from parents after you do that. But he found that this was a time to speak some hard truths to this guy. And I just found it really impactful. Now, certainly this story is not going to probably, for most people, translate 100%. You know, meaning you're not going to be in a situation where an old guy is just at the end of his ropes and crying for help, and he's righteous in his own eyes, and you have to bring him down to earth that no, he's not. And pride. So Job, here's the takeaway. Now, most of you are young, pretty young, whatever. I'm young, but most of you are young. And Job was this old guy, and he had everything, including a prideful heart. He had everything, including a prideful heart. And he was young once, right? Everyone who's old was young once. I don't know if you knew that. And he started somewhere. He probably started with the best of intentions young in life. He obviously set himself up well, I mean, I take it as a 100% true story. You know what I mean? Well, 100% is kind of like, what is really 100%? I take it as Job really did live. He was a real person, and all this that he had was true. Now, there's probably not old wealthy people here in America where we live who express their wealth by, cattle and fields and that kind of thing. Maybe some areas of the country, though, for sure. We need farmers. That's another story and topic. We need farmers. But he had everything, including a prideful heart. Pride tends to grow as you get older, for better or for worse. Now, having pride in your work, in your toil, that's kind of another term for work, is a good thing. If you don't have pride in what you're doing, then why are you doing it? If you don't take pride in what you're doing, why are you doing it? But having a prideful heart is kind of a little bit different, And that was Job's Achilles heel. That was his weakness, the prideful heart. And it took a young person. Sometimes young people can see what older people can't see. You know, you can think of plenty of examples. You know, you may see older people, whatever, you know, not necessarily old. Don't even call them old. If you see people that you think, oh, that person's old, don't say, oh, look, an old person. You know, think up another term, seasoned or something like that. But pride tends to grow, and young people can see what old people can't. For instance, I can see, so I don't have, you know, I'm not married, I don't have any kids, but I can see young families, how they take their kids for granted sometimes. And it's easy for me to see and say, because I don't deal with the stresses of raising children, which is a big stress. You know, one day you'll probably thank your parents for changing your diapers and teething and all that. I've stayed over with some friends in the past, you know, spotty times here and there where they have young kids, and I get a little dose of what it's like to be a parent, you know, waking up in the middle of the night and your kid's crying and that kind of thing, which used to be you and me for that matter. But, you know, I can see how, like in my current season, I mean, I pray consistently, you know, one day for those kind of blessings, you know, for a family, that kind of thing. Every man and woman, I think especially men want, well, maybe equally, want their own family one day, you know. At some point, just kind of clicks maybe, you know. It's just something that you want on your to-do list. Maybe not now, may not be something you want in your near future. If you're listening, more than likely it's definitely not something you want in your near future, because you want to be kind of strategic about it. But, you know, I can see how what you have in your current season that can be the most stressful thing could have been what you prayed for in your last season, or what you wanted most in your last season, you know, or vice versa, or whatever. You know, every parent, at least a parent of faith, probably prayed to God for, you know, amazing children, an amazing spouse, and then they get those things, and then you see them freaking out, you know, over the littlest, smallest things. You know, most things that we identify as problems or issues or whatever, we blow them out of proportion. If you're a person of faith, or you're interested in faith, you know, we worship this God, this Creator who created all things. You know, the air that we breathe created all of it. The world, the universe, you know, he's so large, and these little tiny problems that don't even make any kind of impact on the universe, really. You know, a life, you know, like the totality of your life, you can make an astonishing impact on the universe, we'll call it, on the totality of your life. If it's something you want, you know, at the end of your life, when there's a memorial service, if you want people to say, oh, this person did great things, the totality of your life, that's pretty meaningful to the universe. You know, a little tiny problem on, you know, May 12th of 2017 or whatever. That's not today's date. It's a random date. But that will not have a profound impact on anything. We just make it into a big impact. So, but young people, you guys, you have different eyes. Everyone has different eyes. You see a little bit differently. But in this story, this young buck, Elihu, well, I don't know if that was his Jewish name or not. I don't even know what language they spoke when this book was written, to be honest. But he saw something that even Job's counsel, you know, his wise counsel, his friends didn't see. You know, they and I didn't read. You can read the story. You know, they just tried to attack Job's defense in a different way, and Elihu, he's just like, bro, you're not right. You're not holy. You're not God. Stop making yourself out to be God. You know, a hurricane wiped out your field. You're not God. Those things just happen sometimes, you know? And then, you know, I'll even just, again, touch on chapter 33, 23, and then afterward, Yet if there is an angel at their side, a messenger, one out of 1,000, sent to tell them how to be upright, and he is gracious to that person and says to God, spare them from going down in the pit. I have found a ransom for them. Let their flesh be renewed like a child's. Let them be restored as in the days of their youth. That's huge. That's the story of redemption. I mean, and again, I want you guys, you listeners, if you're not plugged into a church, to try to find a life-giving church. Google life-giving church plus your location. See if anything comes up. You can email me at the address, and I can't promise I can give you an answer. I just want to know. What your thoughts are. I searched. Maybe this is you. I searched and nothing came up. I don't really know how to go about it. Talk to your parents, because this kind of thing, I just like talking about. I like studying it. I mean, it feeds me. I'm gonna be talking about Scripture probably a lot. Even if I'm not talking about it, I'm probably talking about it indirectly, because it's just me. It's just how I get fed a lot, and other sources. But especially this year, it's been a daily goal to read first thing in the morning. But he's talking about the story of redemption of Jesus, because that's the story. Jesus died for our sins, past, present, and future, once and for all, to defeat death, so that we could be redeemed and have a relationship with God. Because before that, there's God who is holy, and there's man who is not holy, and what's holy and not holy can't be mixed. This whole unleavened bread thing. I don't know much about that. You can research about that unleavened bread, but there's a whole spiritual thing about that. There's a lot of metaphors in the Bible too. Like not just abstract metaphors like bread and yeast kind of thing. Don't make the batch unholy or whatever. So a lot of good stuff though. And maybe as one last takeaway, because I think I'm running out of time. I'm approaching minute 50. As one last thing, Elihu was the only one who gave a message on redemption. I mean, the story doesn't end with "you're not holy," especially not now. I mean, theologically, I think Jesus was always there, just not necessarily had been expressed in human form yet. So I can't get fully into that. Ask your pastor. Ask your pastor, not me. They know more than me. But Elihu was the only one who gave the story of redemption. He kind of cut Job down to some extent. First he softened a little bit, then he cut him down, then he brought him back up. He didn't end it with "you're not holy," and you're condemned for thinking you were. He says, "Blessed is the one who brings this message, one out of 1,000. I found a ransom for them. Let their flesh be renewed like a child's. They will be restored as in the days of their youth." That's huge. That's huge, and that's why there's life, right? That's why there's life, even though we make mistakes. And if you're not in the faith, then I encourage you just to ask questions. That's okay. It's okay if you're not in the faith. If you're not into Christianity, maybe you're into something else. Again, if I can meet you, I'd like to know more, to be honest. I probably wouldn't necessarily believe in, if you practice another faith, I probably wouldn't be swayed to believe it. But more than likely, we agree on more things than we disagree on. That goes for if you're younger than me or my age or older than me. There's probably not a lot of people older than me listening, other than maybe some parents. But anyone can share the story of redemption in Jesus. And because of him, no matter how many mistakes we make, there's still life that we can walk into. So be blessed. Be blessed. So wisdom has no age. So think about that, guys. Be encouraged. I know you guys not only have big dreams, but you guys know more than people give you credit for. I'm not saying all there is to know. And everyone needs a mentor. Everyone needs to find encouragement. But everyone can be someone else's teacher to some degree. There's always something you can learn from everyone you meet. You just got to figure out what that 1, 2, or even more things are. There's always something you can learn, even if it's just perspective. So it's fun. But that's all I got, guys. I got to figure out a way to close this thing. Like, not just today. Like, I got to figure out a cool way to close this thing. I already sang a song for you guys at the beginning. Maybe I don't know, a blessing? I don't know, that's I guess a blessing. All right, this might be weird. Close my eyes. Lord bless Generation Giants podcast. Man, that's all I got.